Hey folks, how's it going? Plastic Guy here, coming back with another figure review, and today we're taking a look at the latest Marvel Legends CARNAGE Action figure from the second Venom movie. Although Venom 2 was pretty buns, I do really like Carnage as a Spider-Man villain. I think overall he is probably the most ferocious Spidey villain, and he is an all-round scary character. Although his portrayal in Venom 2 wasn't the best, I do still really like this overall vibe, this overall look for Carnage, and I think it translates pretty well into figure form, so I did really want to pick up this latest Marvel Legends. It is at a premium price point. I have posed this figure around, and I do have a few things that I want to talk about here on the channel, and so let's not wait any longer, let's jump right into the video. But before we do, let me know down in the comment section below what you think of Venom Let There Be Carnage, and are you picking this figure up yourself? What are your thoughts on this release? Taking a closer look at the box first, we have Venom Let There Be Carnage up at the top, Marvel Legends series in the top left, a warning top right, Marvel's Carnage down here. Pretty good display of the figure where we can see a good bulk of what's going on. Logo at the bottom, 4+ Hasbro. Nothing really on this side of the packaging. Cool picture of the character from the film on the other side, and then we have the back of the box here. Again, logos, pictures, and yeah, there's not really a write-up or anything about Carnage from this movie. The box is very similar to the Legacy Deadpool figures that we took out recently here on the channel, and it is different to the first Venom release from the Venom film. We've took a look at this figure a couple times actually on the channel in its own video, and they have just re-released this again with tendrils and such in a similar packaging to Carnage here, so they would match a wee bit better if you picked up the latest release, but there's not really much different going on for me to justify picking it up. So taking a closer look at what the figure comes with, we get two interchangeable hand/weapon parts. This is one long, bigger bladed weapon that ports into his wrist, and I do really like the sculpt here. I really like that they've went for these bladed type weapons. I think it suits Carnage really well, and it's the sort of bladed weapons that I've liked with the past Marvel Legends Carnage releases, so I think both of these work really nicely for our movie Carnage here. This one is a lot bigger than the other, and this might sound quite nitpicky, but when you do swap these hands over and these are ported into the figure, I wish they matched the size a bit better. This one is a lot smaller than the overall longer bladed one here on the right, and it's just not very symmetrical. Again, it sounds really nitpicky, but for me, I think if this was a wee bit smaller or if this was a wee bit bigger, they would match better when ported onto the figure. But overall, I do think this looks really good. The paint here is great, the sculpt's great, and again, I do like the weapon choice. With the other hand, this looks really cool. I love what's going on here, the sort of claw hands that are already ported onto the figure, but with this added blade sort of finger reaching out. The only problem with this for me is the lack of paint on the other side, and this is going to be a common thing that comes up in this review. The paint for the figure, although is really nice in parts, there's just a serious lack of it, and there is none of this darker paint that we see on the front here making its way around to the back, which is definitely a shame, especially as this is a more premium priced figure. This is retailing between 32 and 35 bucks, so I just feel like we should be a bit more consistent with the paint here. We get 3 different tendril pieces, and 2 of them have 2 tendrils, so we get a single tendril and then 2 pairs where, yeah, that has 1 port point at the bottom and then 2 tendrils coming out the way. And there's a couple of similar ones, like we can see with the pairs that we get 2 of these sort of bladed type ones, and then you also get this mace shaped one. This one is pretty gnarly. That is going to mess someone up. But what's interesting with the likes of the mace one, it can pop off, and I guess you can swap these about, because on the other pair this bit can pop off as well, but I don't understand why you'd want to pop these off, because you're then just going to end up putting the, you know what I mean? You're going to end up with the same type of pair with these two ends being the same. Swapping these over, you're just going to end up with the same pairs no matter what. But yeah, for whatever reason, these bits come off, and again, you get this mace one. I do like this one, a bit more slim, but looks sharp and jaggy, like a tail end, I suppose. And then the single tendril has, again, this more sort of jaggy tail end that looks like it's going to cause some damage. And overall, these are really nice. I think they work really well with the figure, but similar to the Spider-Man 2 Doc Ock figure with those bendable tentacles, I should say, these tendrils do require a bit of patience. I spent a good maybe 5-10 minutes really bending them into shape and pushing them into the figure, so when I was photographing Carnage, they were really sitting exactly where I wanted them to, and it can be very time consuming, it can be a bit frustrating, but I think that's to be expected with this type of material. I personally haven't used any heat on them, and I have seen someone on Reddit say that they used heat on the Venom version, the new Venom movie figure release, with the black symbiote tendrils. They heated up, they put it in like a cold plunge or something, and basically they were saying now the tendrils just droop down, there's no tension in them. So personally, I've not heated them up. I'm not going to heat them up. They are frustrating, but I do think it just takes a bit of time to pose them around. Again, it's similar to that Doc Ock Spider-Man 2 Marvel Legends release, but these do add to the premium feel of the figure. I'm never normally a massive fan of like interchange, not a massive fan per se, I just normally don't really make use of bigger, longer accessories like this, but when photographing Carnage, honestly, these really did add to the figure. It added to the fun factor and the overall vibe of the piece. And so when you're talking about the £32 to £35 price mark, I do think that these help get the figure to that place. But you have probably noticed, although that they're posable and they bend around and, you know, they're again adding to the fun factor of it all, they don't have that paint application on them. They are just all this one shade of red. And I mean, look at the sculpt there in the end. It is really nicely done. That looks like a Carnage symbiote tendril, but it is just seriously lacking that darker shade of paint going through the accessory here. And when you're talking about premium figures and that price point, I do feel like it's kind of incomplete without that extra shade of paint. So yeah, I mean, what I've said before with Marvel Legends is it's like one step forward and a couple step back. Like, why give us such an awesome interchangeable accessory that just seems a bit incomplete without the full paint application here? But yeah, overall, I think this is really cool. And then the last interchangeable part for our latest Carnage Marvel Legends is this alternate head. And this, to me, is near perfect. I think they have captured the look of movie Venom here with the tongue coming out very well. I think, again, to be very nitpicky, something that I say a lot with these Marvel Legends symbiote releases are the teeth and the tongue are really clean for an alien-like monster. You know, I think that tongue could maybe be a wee bit darker or have some more saliva on it. I don't know, but that just looks pretty clean to me. But it also looks really good to me. I think this looks great. I have had a lot of fun putting this head onto the figure. You can see that sculpted detail coming down the side of the mouth. I really like how the eyes are painted on there. This guy looks scary. Again, he looks alien-like. He looks ferocious. You can actually see the teeth through that gap at the side of the mouth. I hadn't noticed that. That is awesome. Yeah, really like this head sculpt. It's sculpted to perfection. That's really cool. And then looking at the figure itself, it is pretty awesome. I have had a lot of fun with this. Again, it's annoying because this portrayal of Carnage in the film isn't great, but I think the look of him is gnarly, and he is making a really great Carnage foe for your other Marvel Legends figures. Starting with the head sculpt again, bringing in the alternative one, I think both of these have absolutely nailed the look of Carnage overall, and I think this one definitely captures the look of Carnage from the comics a lot more. We did see, I mean, I actually might... Over here, got the Carnage Marvel Legends comic head sculpt, and you can see that there is some similarities to those comic book pages with our latest movie figure. And so, again, even if you're not a massive fan of that portrayal of Carnage, this is just a gnarly Carnage figure. But yeah, I think the head sculpt here looks great. Again, eyes painted really nicely. He looks alien-like. He looks spooky. He looks like he's ready to cause carnage. On the back, should we just get the negative out of the way first? I don't even need to say it. I mean, you see it straight away. It's so noticeable. I mean, look at the front. Looks badass. It looks incredible. And then you turn it around, man. I don't know, were they thinking that the tendrils would just hide the majority of that? For me, again, when you're paying those premium price points, you're advertising a premium figure, it looks incomplete. It looks like they've done half a job, and it doesn't quite sit right with me. But that aside, I think this is great. The front looks absolutely amazing. The way that that darker shade is coming from out of the red all over this figure really does give a premium look to the figure. I think the paint on the front really looks fantastic. And although I don't have the SH Figure Arts in hand, I would happily say that this does rival it. I mean, when you're comparing, I can't remember how much the SH Figure Arts was. I'd be able to guess that it's 80 to 100 quid. This is 35. I mean, I know what one I would go for the money. Again, it's a shame that it seems a bit incomplete in areas, but we are just talking about the paint here. The sculpt is excellent. The paint on the front is excellent. I love these sculpted tendril bits, like coming out of the arms, they're coming out of the leg. It looks awesome for a symbiote figure. The sculpt here is so sick. I love this. Again, I wish some of the tendrils had a wee bit more paint on, like some of these bigger pieces that you can see in the leg there. But yeah, it's a really cool figure. I've had a lot of fun with it. I do want to show like a wee bit of articulation. Of course, this is very similar to the movie Venom. You have this rotating area under the chest here, and it moves forward and back a wee bit. But then you have this ab crunch, and something that I noticed when I posed this figure around is that the ab crunch didn't quite move as far forward as I would like. With this whole articulation system, I feel like he should be able to move just a wee bit further forward than he does. And you can see that he does get there, and he springs all the way back. So I would like some more movement in that ab crunch. You can see he moves back that far. And the only other thing I would say is I would have liked to have gotten some butterfly joints here to bring his arm closer across the body, even going back the way, bring it further back. But that's it. I think the articulation is really nice. You've got the double jointed knees, double jointed elbows, wrist movement, everything you would need there, and it's pinless. And so it does get points, but I would like some more movement, and butterfly joints would really take this to the likes of the Figure Arts level, you know what I'm saying? But let's compare this figure to some others in the collection. So the first figure I want to compare our latest Marvel Legends movie Carnage to is the comic Marvel Select Carnage. We took a closer look at this figure here on the channel in its own video. Perhaps some point last year it did get re-released, and I do really like this figure. I've had a lot of fun with it since I've picked it up, and there's a lot of good things going for it. I do really like, I mean, the same as what I said with the Marvel Legends here, the tendrils coming out of the body. With the Marvel Legends, they're sculpted onto the figure. With the Marvel Select, they're actually interchangeable, removable parts, and I think both look really good here. But with the Marvel Select, I think something that beats out the Marvel Legends is you've got that gnarly paint going all around the figure, and again, it's just something that seems so lazy from Marvel Legends. Like, how could they not have given us the paint going all around? Like, again, it just looks incomplete when you compare it. Look at that. Like, come on, man. Look at those two figures side by side and tell me what one looks better from behind. It is just a total cop-out from Marvel Legends, and it hits harder when they're charging that premium price mark. And so I do think the Marvel Select still is a great comic-looking Carnage, and I think to go back to what I said earlier with this movie portrayal, although it is capturing Carnage from that second Venom movie, there's nothing stopping it from being a more comic-like Carnage figure in your Marvel Legends collection, especially when you look at these head sculpts. You can really see the comic inspiration on this figure here. The one noticeable difference would be the feet, and personally I prefer when Venom and Carnage and the symbiotes have monster-like alien-looking toe-out feet here to these just sort of symbiote shoe type things. I know folk disagree because I've seen so many people making customs with their Venom figures where the feet are more like this, but personally I do prefer those crazy scary looking toes, you know. I think it suits the symbiotes a lot better, especially when you're talking about the ferocity and scariness of the symbiotes. But yeah, I think in terms of height and scale, we can see that the Marvel Legends is standing even taller than the Marvel Select, which is crazy because Marvel Select, of course, are a whole bigger scale than Marvel Legends. They don't normally scale with one another. And I thought this Carnage was probably a bit too big for some Marvel Legends figures. I mean, that is the main figures I pose with this Carnage. But with our Marvel Legends movie Carnage being even bigger than this, yeah, I don't know. The thing I would say though, if you were deciding between these two, I think they are both solid pickups, but the articulation in the Marvel Legends blows the Marvel Select out of the water at this point, and so that is definitely something that the Marvel Legends takes the dub on. And I think overall both of these for the price points are definitely worth adding to your collection. And then real quick, here is our Carnage next to the Marvel Select Venom. This again is the re-release, and we took a closer look at this figure here on the channel when that re-release came out. I honestly can't remember at this point how long ago these figures were re-released. I'm hoping it was early last year, and so if you are wanting a closer look at these Marvel Select symbiote figures, then feel free to hop on over to the channel page and see what you think. And here is our Marvel Legends movie Carnage figure next to the initially released Marvel Legends movie Venom figure that I still think holds up these years later. You've got similar articulation now between these two characters, but oh my god, the scale here. And I know this is accurate to the film. For some reason in the movie they made Carnage Colossus, and I mean, I get it. I guess they're trying to add to the intimidation factor of Carnage, but for me, I would prefer they were similar in height and you wouldn't have such a huge height difference in the figures here, but I do still think they look pretty cool next to one another. And then here is our Marvel Legends movie Carnage figure next to our Marvel Legends movie Spider-Man figures, and it is almost like this Carnage is from a whole other toy line. The height difference here is crazy. He is so much bigger than these three, and although it looks such a big difference having them standing here, it does still sort of work for me. And the pictures that I wanted to do with Carnage for my Instagram, I actually used the SHF Spider-Man figures, which are even smaller than the Marvel Legends here, and I liked how it turned out. I think going back to the idea that they made Carnage so big in the movie to intimidate his enemies, it kind of comes across that way. It's like the three Spideys are working together to take out one of their biggest and most ferocious enemies. Again, I would probably prefer that Carnage was a bit smaller in the same scale as Venom, but hey, this is it, and it's maybe not as bad as it looks. To see how those SHF Spideys would scale with this Marvel Legends Carnage, I've kept the final swingsuit Tom Holland Spidey here on the left and used its SH Figuarts counterpart here on the right. And yeah, you can see that the SH Figure Arts is that wee bit smaller, and then therefore looks like Carnage is that wee bit bigger. Bringing in a couple of classic Marvel Legends symbiote action figures, we've got Carnage and Venom, and I cannot wait for the latest retro carded Venom release that is coming up. It looks like the perfect upgrade to this Venom here on the right, which is still one of my favourite Marvel Legends Venom figures, and so I cannot wait to check that out here on the channel, so stay tuned for that. And then lastly, to bring in a couple of comic Marvel Legends Spidey figures, we've got the Amazing Friends Spidey here on the left and the Renew Your Vows Spidey on the right with the Ben Reilly retro carded head sculpt. And so you could kind of see how this movie Carnage would work with some comic Marvel Legends figures. And so there we have it for our latest movie, Marvel Legends Carnage Action figure. And something that I did want to bring up earlier and forgot is all the interchangeable parts with this figure are pretty stiff to port on to the piece. Like the head sculpt here gets a good push until it's on, and the same with these tendrils, porting them into the back ports. It takes a good bit of force to actually get it on there, but again, perseverance I think is key with this piece, especially when you're wanting to pose these tendril pieces at the back here and get it into the position that you want it to. Apologies again, I still don't have my rotating base for the end and start of these videos, and so I will just mess about with the figure here. But for the £32 to £35 price point, I'm really happy with this. I have had a lot of fun with this figure. I've enjoyed posing it around. I've enjoyed posing it next to other figures, whether it's been from Marvel Legends or Figure Arts. I think it is a great Carnage action figure, but I do think it has its downfall, and that is the paint, because the paint is so damn good looking. It's just not applied to everywhere you'd want it to be, and it kind of gives this incomplete look to the figure overall, especially when you take the photos off the figure and you see that those tendrils don't have any paint on them. It's slacking at the sides, the underarms. Yeah, it's a good figure, but I just wish for the price and the premium sort of tag that it's given that we got some better paint application to it. But apart from that, yeah, it's a big win from me. Let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. While you're down there, guys, if you could do me a massive favour, hit that like button. If you're new to the channel, then please hit that subscribe button. I'll leave the link to my Instagram in the description below, but I'll definitely be posting a lot of pictures of this Carnage figure up over there in the months to come. I've taken a good few photos already that I'm really happy with, and so I'll get them up rapid. It'd mean a lot if you check out the Instagram, and it means a lot that you've watched this video right here, so thank you guys so much for watching, and as always, I'll catch you on the flip-flop later. Cheers.